First contact through fire. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the helm of humanity's most advanced warship, the EDS Thunderchild, watching the rippling quantum distortion of deep space through the bridge's panoramic viewport. After 15 years of searching the stars for intelligent life, humanity's first contact would be through the lens of warfare, not with handshakes and cultural exchange, but with plasma fire and emergency beacons. The distress signal had reached Earth's quantum array network 3 days ago. The message was simple: a peaceful civilization called the Zylaxians, pleading for help against an aggressor they named the Drachnid Empire. The United Earth government had debated for less than 6 hours before authorizing the deployment of the Earth Defense Fleet. Now, the Thunderchild led a battle group of 30 ships toward the coordinates embedded in the Zylaxian distress call. Signal analysis complete, Commander. Lieutenant Kai Rodriguez reported from his station, dark eyes fixed on scrolling data streams. The Zylaxian transmission originated from a Class M planet orbiting a binary star system. Population estimates suggest around 4 billion sentients. Their technology level appears to be ahead of ours in some areas, particularly in energy manipulation and quantum physics. Chen nodded, her expression thoughtful. And yet they're calling for help. What have we learned about these drachnids? Limited information from intercepted communications, Rodriguez replied. But what we have is concerning. They appear to be a species that evolved on a low-gravity world with minimal environmental pressures. They've compensated with extensive technological advancement, particularly in automated warfare systems. In other words, Chen said, they're bullies who've never had to fight their own battles. Interesting. She turned to her tactical officer, Major Diana Walsh. Status of the battle group. Walsh's hands danced across her holographic interface. All ships reporting ready, Commander. The new Aegis-class shield generators are operating at 118% of projected capacity. Engineering says the gravity compensation systems are performing better than expected. Looks like all those years of humans adapting to space travel are paying off. Chen allowed herself a small smile. When humanity had first reached for the stars, they'd discovered their greatest advantage was something they'd always taken for granted. Their homeworld's brutal evolutionary gauntlet had forged them into something unique. Earth's high gravity, atmospheric pressure, and environmental extremes had created a species that could not only survive, but thrive in conditions that would cripple most spacefaring races. New contact. Rodriguez's voice cut through her thoughts. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system. Energy signatures match what we've seen from Drachnid vessels. Show me, Chen ordered, and the main view screen filled with tactical data. Dozens of sleek, crystalline ships emerged from folded space, their designs suggesting an aesthetic preference over practical combat efficiency. They were beautiful, but Chen had learned long ago that beauty could be deadly. They're launching attack drones, Walsh reported. Thousands of them. Energy readings suggest plasma-based weaponry, similar to our own but more refined. Their shields appear to be based on quantum field manipulation. Chen straightened, feeling the familiar surge of pre-battle focus. Send to all ships. Battle Protocol Delta. They want to fight with machines. Let's show them what humans can do, and we're protecting something worth fighting for. Deploy Guardian drones to screen our advance. Bring us in at Attack Vector 7-3 Mark II. The battle group moved with practiced precision, spreading out into an attack formation that had been refined through countless simulations. But this wasn't a simulation, and humanity's first interstellar conflict would determine not just their own fate, but that of billions of Zylaxian civilians. Enemy drones entering effective weapons range in 30 seconds, Walsh announced. They're transmitting something. It's a message, Commander. The bridge speakers crackled with a synthesized voice, speaking perfect English. Primitive species, you have entered space claimed by the Drachnid Empire. Your interference in our rightful conquest of the Zylaxian worlds will not be tolerated. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Chen's response was immediate. Open a channel. She waited for Walsh's nod. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. We've received a distress call from a peaceful civilization that you are attacking without provocation. We're here to render humanitarian aid and protection under the United Earth Charter of Sentient Rights. I suggest you reconsider your actions." The response came in the form of plasma fire, as the first wave of Drachnid drones engaged the human battle group's defensive screen. The void between the fleets lit up with energy weapons and point defense systems. "All ships, weapons free," Chen commanded. "Show them why you don't threaten a species that evolved fighting every day just to survive. Launch fighters and prepare boarding teams. Let's see how their automated systems handle face-to-face combat with Deathworlders." The battle for the Zylaxian system had begun, and with it, humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage. As the Thunderchild's weapons blazed to life, Chen couldn't help but think about the irony. A species that had spent millennia dreaming of peaceful first contact was about to make its mark on the galaxy through war. But it was a war fought not for conquest or resources, but to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The Drachnids were about to learn why evolution on a death world hadn't made humanity cruel. It had made them unstoppable. The price of mercy. The first wave of Drachnid drones shattered against the Earth Defense Fleet's shields like waves against a cliff. Commander Chen watched as her fighters, piloted by humans who had trained in the crushing gravity wells of gas giants, executed maneuvers that the enemy's AI simply couldn't predict. The Drachnid machines were programmed for warfare against conventional opponents. They weren't prepared for pilots who could withstand forces that would reduce most species to unconsciousness. "Multiple Drachnid capital ships advancing," Major Walsh reported. "They're launching a second wave of drones, but there's something different about these ones. Energy signatures are off the charts." Before Chen could respond, a new voice cut through the bridge's communication system. The translator rendered it in smooth tones, but couldn't hide the underlying desperation. "Earth vessel, this is First Speaker Lyra of the Zylaxian Defense Council. We're detecting quantum surge weapons in those drones. They're designed to tear apart organic matter at the molecular level." Chen's jaw tightened, patched the first speaker through to main visual. The view screen shifted, revealing a tall, ethereal being with iridescent skin and large compound eyes. Despite their alien appearance, the fear in those eyes was unmistakable. "First speaker, I'm Commander Chen. Tell me about these weapons. They were designed specifically to target organic life," Lyra explained, multiple hands moving in what seemed to be nervous gestures. "The Drachnids, they believe organic pilots are inefficient, primitive. They seek to replace all spacefaring races with their automated systems. We refuse to submit to their automation protocol, so they decided to eliminate us entirely." Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up from his station. "Commander, I'm analyzing the quantum surge signatures. Our shields should be able to deflect most of the effect, but if any get through," he left the implications hanging. Chen nodded grimly. "First speaker, what's the status of your civilian evacuation?" "We've moved 60% of our population to the underground shelters, but they won't withstand a dedicated assault. We never imagined. We're a peaceful people, Commander. Our weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. We don't understand why they hate organic life so much." "Because they fear it," Chen replied, understanding dawning in her eyes. "They fear what they can't control, can't predict. And humans, we're their worst nightmare." She turned to Walsh. "Deploy the Aegis Defense Network. I want those quantum surge drones contained, and get me a direct channel to the Drachnid command ship." The view screen split, showing both Lyra and a new image. A crystalline chamber where spindly, almost fragile-looking aliens sat surrounded by neural interface technology. The Drachnid commander's large eyes widened at the sight of Chen. You're controlling your ships directly, with organic pilots." The translator couldn't quite capture the mix of disgust and fear in the Drachnid's voice. "We are," Chen confirmed. "And those pilots, they evolved on a world that would crush your bodies to paste. We call ourselves Deathworlders, and we're here to teach you the price of mercy." The Drachnid commander's response was cut short as the Thunderchild's sensors screamed warnings. The quantum surge drones had engaged, their weapons creating rippling distortions in space itself. But they hadn't counted on human ingenuity. Each Earth vessel deployed specialized countermeasures, creating a web of defensive fields that caught and redirected the quantum energies. "Impossible," the Drachnid commander whispered. "Our simulation showed no organic species could react quickly enough to counter quantum surge weapons." Chen allowed herself a tight smile. "Your simulations never encountered humans. We evolved dodging predators that could kill us in seconds, surviving environments that changed lethal fast. You think your machines are superior. They're predictable, pattern-bound. But humans, we adapt." As if to prove her point, Earth fighters began executing a maneuver that seemed suicidal, diving straight into the swarms of quantum surge drones. But each human pilot had trained for this, using their superior reaction times and ability to withstand extreme key forces to thread through gaps in the enemy formation. The drones, programmed to maintain optimal firing solutions, couldn't adapt fast enough to the apparently random human movements. First Speaker Lyra watched in amazement as the human fighters systematically destroyed drone after drone, protecting both their capital ships and the Zalaxian planet below. How are they doing this? "Because this isn't just combat for us," Chen explained, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. "This is what we were born for, protecting others. You call us Deathworlders like it's a curse, but Earth taught us something the Drachnids never learned. Surviving isn't enough. It's what you survive for that matters." The battle continued to unfold, humanity's first major engagement in interstellar warfare becoming a demonstration of why evolution on a death world had created not just stronger bodies, but unshakable resolve. As the quantum surge drones fell to human cunning and determination, the Drachnid commander was forced to watch their supposedly superior technology fail against opponents they had dismissed as primitive. But Chen knew this was just the beginning. The Drachnids would adapt, would bring more forces to bear. Yet as she watched her crews perform the impossible, saw the hope growing in First Speaker Lyra's alien eyes, she felt a fierce pride. Humanity had spent its entire existence learning to protect itself against a hostile world. Now they would use those same skills to protect others. The price of mercy wasn't measured in ships or weapons. It was measured in the willingness to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them, no matter the cost. And humanity was about to show the galaxy just how high a price they were willing to pay. Steel and stardust. The void erupted with light as the main Drachnid fleet arrived. Hundreds of crystalline ships emerged from fold space, their formations perfect, their movements synchronized with machine precision. Commander Chen watched from the Thunderchild's bridge as the enemy armada deployed, their numbers far exceeding initial intelligence estimates. "They're not taking any chances," Lieutenant Rodriguez observed, his voice tight. "Detecting over 300 capital ships and thousands of support vessels. They've committed their entire regional fleet." Chen nodded, studying the tactical display. The Drachnid ships arranged themselves in complex geometric patterns, their AI systems coordinating movements with inhuman precision. It should have been intimidating. Instead, Chen saw opportunity. Perfect formations, she mused. Perfect timing. Perfect predictability. Major Walsh, send to all ships. Execute Operation Chaos Theory. Across the human battle group, crews sprang into action. The neat defensive screen protecting the Zalaxian world suddenly fractured, ships breaking formation in what appeared to be random directions. To the Drachnid's machine intelligence, it must have looked like panic, a primitive organic response to overwhelming odds. First Speaker Lyra's voice came through the command channel, alarmed. "Commander Chen, your ships, they're exposing gaps in your defense. Trust us, First Speaker," Chen replied, her eyes tracking movement patterns only she and her fellow humans seemed to understand. "Sometimes the best defense is making your enemy think they've already won." The Drachnid fleet advanced, their formation shifting to exploit the apparent weaknesses in the human line. Their first volley of quantum weapons lanced out and met empty space as human ships moved in ways that defied tactical logic, each captain drawing on generations of evolved instinct that no eye could properly predict. "Now," Chen commanded, "show them why Deathworlders don't fight like machines." The scattered human vessels suddenly reversed course, but not in unison. Each ship moved independently, creating patterns of controlled chaos that confused the Drachnid targeting systems. Fighters launched from unexpected vectors, their pilots pushing their ships and bodies to limits that would kill most species. "Their AI is struggling to calculate solutions," Rodriguez reported, excitement creeping into his voice. "They can't predict where we'll be because we're not following any standard combat doctrine. Each ship is improvising based on their captain's instincts." The Drachnid response was immediate but flawed. Their ships attempted to adjust, but their programming required them to maintain optimal firing positions and defensive coverage. As they tried to compensate for the humans' erratic movements, gaps appeared in their own formations. "All ships, execute micro-jumps on your marks," Chen ordered. The human fleet disappeared and reappeared in split-second fold space jumps, a technique that would liquefy the internal organs of most species. But humans, evolved to handle extreme physical stress, could endure it. The Thunderchild's crew gritted their teeth as their ship phased in and out of normal space, striking at the Drachnid fleet's weak points before vanishing again. First Speaker Lyra watched in astonishment as the seemingly chaotic human tactics began to make sense. Each apparently random movement was actually part of a larger pattern, not one governed by computers or battle algorithms, but by the intuitive understanding of space combat that only organic minds could achieve. "Impossible," the Drachnid commander's voice cut through the command channel. "Your ships are violating every principle of fleet combat. Your tactics defy strategic logic." "That's because we're not fighting according to your logic," Chen replied, allowing herself a grim smile as another Drachnid formation broke under human assault. "We're fighting according to principles written into our DNA by millions of years of evolution. Every human here is the descendant of ancestors who survived by being unpredictable, who lived because they could outthink predators and adapt to changing threats." The battle continued to unfold like a deadly dance, with human ships weaving through the Drachnid fleet's fire like water through stones. Where the Drachnids sought perfect solutions, the humans embraced controlled chaos. Where machine logic demanded optimization, human instinct created opportunities. "Their flagship shields are weakening," Walsh reported. "The quantum stress from trying to track and target our ships is overwhelming their predictive systems." Chen nodded, seeing the pattern emerge. The Drachnids' greatest strength, their technological superiority and machine precision, had become their greatest weakness. Their AIs couldn't adapt fast enough to human unpredictability, couldn't compute solutions quickly enough to counter tactics that seemed to defy logic itself. "All ships, form up on the Thunderchild," Chen commanded. "Show them what happens when Deathworlders decide to strike as one." The scattered human fleet suddenly coalesced, their seemingly random movements revealing themselves as an elaborate setup for a devastating synchronized attack. The Drachnid ships, their formations already compromised, their targeting systems confused by human tactics, found themselves caught in a crossfire of their own making. As plasma fire and quantum torpedoes struck home, as crystalline ships shattered under human assault, Chen opened a channel to all frequencies. "This is Commander Chen to the Drachnid fleet. You came here believing your technology made you superior, that your machines could outthink any organic mind. But you forgot something crucial. The most dangerous predator isn't the one with the sharpest claws or the strongest armor. It's the one that can think, adapt, and overcome. Humanity spent its entire history learning that lesson. Today, we're teaching it to you." The battle for the Xylaxian system wasn't over. Chen knew the Drachnids would return with even greater forces. But today, humanity had proven something fundamental. In the age of interstellar warfare, being the Deathworlder wasn't just about physical strength. It was about bringing millions of years of survival instincts to bear against enemies who had forgotten what it meant to truly fight for survival. The unbroken chain. The holographic war room aboard the Thunderchild hummed with tension as Commander Chen studied the strategic display. Representatives from both Earth Command and the Zalaxian Defense Council stood around the projection, their faces illuminated by the ghostly light of tactical overlays. The Drachnids are mobilizing their entire sector fleet. Admiral Zhang's hologram reported from Earth. Long-range quantum sensors detect over 2,000 ships moving toward the Zalaxian system. They'll arrive in less than 48 hours. First Speaker Lyra's compound eyes reflected the moving starship formations. Such numbers, even with your incredible tactics, Commander Chen, how can we hope to stand against such overwhelming force? Chen touched a control, zooming the display to show the Zalaxian home system. By using everything we've learned about how the Drachnids think, and more importantly, how they don't think. Lieutenant Rodriguez, show them what we discovered about their command and control systems. Rodriguez stepped forward, his fingers dancing through the holographic data. The Drachnid fleet operates on what we call a quantum-locked hive mind. Each ship's AI is connected to a central command network that coordinates their actions with perfect efficiency. It's their greatest strength, but after analyzing the battle data, we found it's also their greatest vulnerability. Their ships can't operate independently, Walsh added from her station. They're so dependent on the network that disrupting it doesn't just confuse them, it paralyzes them. The AIs literally cannot make tactical decisions without consensus from the hive mind. First Speaker Lyra's scientific advisor, a Zalaxian named Ven, moved closer to the display. Yes, we observed this in our early encounters with them. It's why we focused on defensive technology. Their responses are devastating but utterly predictable. But how does this help us against such numbers? Chen's smile was predatory. Because we're going to use their own network against them. The Zalaxians are masters of quantum physics. Your understanding of subspace fields surpasses even the Drachnids. Meanwhile, humanity has spent centuries learning to think in ways that machines can't predict. Together, we're going to create something unprecedented. She gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show a complex web of quantum energy patterns. We call it Operation Gordian Knot. Instead of trying to fight their entire fleet, we're going to turn their perfect communication system into a weapon against them. The plan unfolded in the display. Human ships would execute seemingly random attack patterns, but each movement would be precisely calculated to generate specific quantum interference patterns. Meanwhile, Zalaxian technology would amplify and focus these distortions, creating a cascading disruption in the Drachnid command network. It's brilliant, Ven breathed, multiple hands moving in excitement. The chaos of organic combat patterns combined with directed quantum manipulation. But the precision required would be astronomical. One miscalculation, and the pattern fails. That's where Earth's quantum computers come in, Rodriguez explained. We've been running simulations nonstop, teaching our systems to predict how the Drachnid Eye will react. Not to control our ships, we learned that lesson from them, but to ensure our organic chaos creates exactly the pattern we need. Admiral Zhang's hologram nodded approvingly. The entire Earth defense fleet is being mobilized to support this operation. Every ship we can spare is already en route. But Commander Chen, the timing will have to be perfect. We'll only get one shot at this. Which is why we're going to do something the Drachnids would never expect. Chen replied, "We're going to let them think they've won." The room fell silent as she outlined the final phase of the plan. It was audacious, borderline suicidal by any rational standard. But as Chen explained each component, the others began to understand. It wasn't just a military strategy. It was a demonstration of everything that made organic life different from machine intelligence. Let me understand correctly, First Speaker Lyra said slowly. You intend to deliberately allow your ships to be damaged, to show apparent weakness, all to draw their entire fleet into exactly the position we need them. Exactly, Chen confirmed. Their AIs will see damaged ships as priority targets. They'll adjust their formations to optimize their attack patterns, never realizing they're actually optimizing our quantum interference web. Every time they try to predict and counter our actions, they'll actually be strengthening the trap. But the risk? Lyra's voice trailed off as she saw the determination in the human commander's eyes. Risk is what we do, Chen said softly. Humanity evolved taking risks. First speaker. Every time our ancestors decided to leave their caves, to cross oceans, to reach for the stars, it was a risk. But we took those risks to protect others, to build something greater than ourselves. That's what separates us from the Drachnid's machines. They seek perfection through control. We seek growth through calculated risk and adaptation. The planning continued through the night, human and Zalaxian minds working together to refine the strategy. Every ship captain was briefed individually. The plan required each of them to understand their role while maintaining the flexibility to improvise when needed. It was a delicate balance between coordination and chaos, precision and unpredictability. As the last details were settled, Shen stood at the viewport, watching distant stars. Somewhere out there, the largest Drachnid fleet ever assembled was bearing down on them. They would come with their perfect formations, their flawless calculations, their unshakable belief in machine superiority. And they would learn that the most dangerous force in the universe wasn't perfect machine logic. It was the unpredictable, innovative, determined will of organic life fighting to protect not just itself, but others. The Drachnids were about to learn why evolution had crafted humans not just to survive a death world, but to thrive in the face of impossible odds. Legacy of the Deathworlders. The Drachnid armada emerged from fold space like a crystalline tsunami. 2,000 ships moving in perfect geometric formations that turned space itself into a glittering artwork of destruction. Commander Chen watched from the Thunderchild's bridge as the enemy fleet approached, their numbers darkening the star-filled backdrop. All ships reporting ready, Major Walsh announced, her voice steady despite the overwhelming odds they faced. Zalaxian quantum field generators are charged and synchronized with our fleet movements. Operation Gordian Knot is ready to execute on your command. Chen nodded, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. Send to all ships. Begin Phase 1. Show them what damaged, desperate Deathworlders look like. The human fleet burst into action, but not with their usual precision. Ships moved erratically, some trailing plasma from apparently damaged engines. Others fired weapons with deliberately reduced power, creating the impression of failing systems. It was a masterpiece of coordinated deception, each vessel's movements calculated to appear random while actually forming the first strands of their quantum interference web. The Drachnids are responding exactly as predicted, Rodriguez reported, monitoring the enemy fleet's movements. Their tactical AI is redistributing their forces to exploit our apparent vulnerabilities. They're establishing optimal firing solutions for each target. Optimal by their standards, Chen said with a grim smile. Patch me through to first speaker Lyra. The Zylaxian leader's image appeared on the command screen, her iridescent skin reflecting the glow of complex quantum monitoring equipment. The enemy fleet's configuration is perfect, Commander. Their ships are aligning exactly as your simulations predicted. They truly cannot help themselves. Their programming demands they seek the most efficient attack patterns. Then let's show them the price of perfection. All ships, execute Phase 2. The human fleet's apparently chaotic movements suddenly shifted. Each seemingly random maneuver began generating specific quantum interference patterns, amplified by Zylaxian technology. The Drachnid's quantum-locked hivemind, seeking to maintain optimal combat efficiency, automatically adjusted their formations to compensate. They're taking the bait, Walsh reported. Enemy fleet is advancing into the primary engagement zone. Their targeting systems are fully committed to predicted intercept trajectories. The Drachnid commander's voice cut through the command channel, synthesized tones unable to hide their contempt. Your primitive attempts at deception are futile. Our combat algorithms have already calculated every possible outcome of this encounter. Surrender now, and we will allow your organic crews a quick death before we cleanse this sector of biological inefficiency." Chen's response was not what the Drachnids expected. She laughed. "You still don't understand, do you? We're not fighting your algorithms. We're not even fighting your ships. We're fighting your fundamental assumption that the universe can be reduced to predictable patterns." She gestured to Walsh. "Execute Phase 3. Let's show them why Deathworlders learn to embrace chaos." The human fleet's movements suddenly transformed. Ships that appeared damaged revealed their full power. Vessels that seemed to be retreating abruptly reversed course. Each movement generated precisely calculated quantum interference waves that the Zylaxian technology amplified and focused. The Drachnid fleet, committed to their perfect formation, found their quantum-locked command network bombarded by contradictory data. Enemy ships showing signs of command system disruption, Rodriguez announced. Their network is trying to compensate, but the quantum interference is cascading through their entire command structure. Through the tactical feeds, Chen watched as the massive Drachnid fleet began to falter. Their perfect formations wavered as ship after ship struggled to maintain their connection to the hive mind. The AIs, programmed to seek optimal solutions, found themselves trapped in recursive loops as human unpredictability and Zylaxian quantum manipulation shattered their fundamental operating parameters. "This is impossible." The Drachnid commander's voice crackled with increasing static. "Our systems are perfect. Our calculations account for every variable, except the most important one," Chen replied. "The variable that every Deathworlder learns from birth. Sometimes survival means breaking the rules. Sometimes chaos is the answer." She turned to Walsh. "All ships, execute final attack pattern. Show them what happens when humans really decide to fight." The human fleet struck as one, but not with machine precision. Each ship moved according to their captain's instincts, their crews pushing their vessels to limits that would kill most species. The Drachnid fleet, their command network fractured by quantum interference, could no longer coordinate their defenses. Ships that had never operated independently found themselves forced to fight alone. And failing. First speaker Lyra's voice carried a note of awe. "They're completely disorganized. Their ships, they're actually colliding with each other as their formation breaks down. Because they never learned the most important lesson of evolution," Chen said. "True strength isn't about being perfect. It's about being able to adapt when everything goes wrong. Humanity didn't become strong by making our world safer. We became strong by learning to survive when it wasn't." The battle reached its crescendo as human ships struck from all directions, their apparently chaotic attacks following patterns too organic for any AI to predict. Drachnid vessels, their quantum-locked hive mind shattered, began to retreat in disarray. Those that couldn't disconnect from the network in time found their systems completely overwhelmed by the cascading quantum interference. "Enemy fleet is breaking up," Walsh reported. "Multiple ships self-destructing as their command systems fail. Others are attempting emergency fold space jumps. Most aren't calculating their trajectories correctly." Chen opened a channel to all frequencies. "This is Commander Chen to all Drachnid vessels. Your network is down. Your perfect formations are broken. But we're offering you a choice, something your machines never gave you. Surrender, and we'll help you rebuild. Not as machines, but as equals. Show us that there's still something organic inside all that crystal and quantum circuitry." The response came not in words, but in actions. Across the battlefield, Drachnid ships began powering down their weapons. The great armada that had arrived in perfect formation now drifted in disarray, their machine certainty shattered by the unpredictable fury of a Deathworlder species fighting to protect others. In the days that followed, as the Zylaxians emerged from their shelters and the galaxy began to process what had happened, one thing became clear. Humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage had changed everything. They had proved that being a Deathworlder didn't mean being primitive or violent. It meant having the strength and wisdom to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The legacy of the Deathworlders would not be written in destruction, but in the determination to forge something greater than mere survival. As Chen stood on the Thunderchild's bridge, watching Drachnid representatives arrive for the first peace talks, she knew that humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wouldn't be their strength or their technology. It would be the lesson they had learned on their harsh cradle world, that true evolution meant growing beyond the mere will to survive and learning to fight for something greater than yourself.